Sorry, I just never
He was
did that. So
oh
it's all Timothy
oh
Chalamet
you missed
talk.
out some good
Chalamet.
streaming.
Uh,
Uh
speaking, I've already screwed up so many French like words. Wait for my summary.
hmm.
What number
Yeah,
is it?
okay. He was in Interstellar.
79.
He was in
He's a kid in Interstellar, isn't he? That's crazy.
yeah, weird.
It no,
What?
he's
Yeah.
the young version of what's his name? The brother, right?
It says young hold
Who
Oh, I
plays
guess
the old?
Interstellar's pretty fucking old, so.
Tom, young Tom.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Was that Interstellar's name? Or was Interstellar a different name?
No,
Who was
Interstellar
what was
was
Interstellar?
Cooper. Cooper.
Okay, all right. You're right. You're right. It
Tom's
was
probably one of
Cooper.
his kids.
That's a very Matthew McConaughey character name. It's
Yeah.
But yeah. Just the whole thing. And the Villeneuve, I say I forgot to say his name again. Like again,
Vinny.
Arrival. Nothing bad to say about it. Just doesn't tickle my sweet spot. So I
See,
think he.
I hate the ending of Arrival because it feels to me like an anti-choice narrative.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Huh?
Dune is definitely that.
Dune is like the embodiment of shit's complicated. I mean, it's just sort of like that's part of why it works is it feels like well, all these people have a lot of shit going on. Um more I think I don't know.
Anyway,
I
did
mean,
one of you give me a number?
79.
79.
Okay. In at number 79, it's the Great War.
Yay! Everyone loves a great war, right?
Yes.
How much time do you guys even spend studying the Great War?
I've read several books on
And like
lots
at
of
school
things.
and stuff.
Oh, at school?
I'm going to say not much.
Not as much as two by any means, because Americans only got into it like after it was mostly won, right?
I prefer
What are
to
you
think
talking
of
about?
it as that World War II just is the story people want to tell because it makes us look really good. But that might just be my opinion.
Yeah, one makes us Johnny come latelys as far as Americans are concerned.
Well, technically Johnny came lately to the good war as well, but
Anyway, if I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember my American history class, it's maybe like 1 week on World War One and then like a month on two, you know?
Okay,
wow.
wait, quickly while we're on World War II. Um, Mark and Matt, snap decision, don't think about it too long. What years were World War II?
1935 through 1944.
I guess I'm thinking Europe. So
No,
39 stuck in
39,
my head.
44. Sorry.
I mean, if you're counting some of the Eastern stuff, then it's earlier. But yeah, 39 is, I think, what, well, most Americans would say. Maybe.
I've heard that most Americans would say 42 because that's when America got involved.
Wouldn't they say
Huh.
41? I guess
Or
I
41,
guess we
whatever it is.
didn't get the troops over
You
till
both
42.
got the ending date wrong, by the way. It's 45.
Oh.
Did I not say
Oh, so
45? No, I
close.
didn't say an ending date.
Yeah. I said
Yeah,
44. That's pretty good.
the
Yeah.
most accurate would be 32 to 45
Yeah, that
because
sounds
that's
about
from when
right.
Japan invades China to
Right, I've heard that argument too. And then
Victory Japan Day.
and if you want to count in the Spanish Civil War, you can also you got some dates in there, which I guess that's
Yeah.
a different thing, but it's on the
Yeah, it bleeds over into it, but it is its own separate incident.
yeah.
But yeah, because in the UK we're always taught 39 to 45.
But I will say
That's the
today's
dates of
film,
our war with Germany. Anyway, yeah, we're talking about the First World War,
yeah, today's
which
movie Paths
we
of Glory, All Quiet on the Western Front. When I was a teenager, they had a weird, interesting appeal because we don't come across much World War One stuff, you know?
we did spend a decent amount of time at school studying World War One, more so World War Two, but it was a much closer thing. I think there's not a lot of films about World War One because it's grim.
Yeah.
That's what that's what I want. When I've never seen this film before. When I started watching it, there's the scene with the general kind of angling for a promotion and being weird, passive aggressive about it. I'm like, oh well, that's kind of that guy seems like a jerk. But then it goes into the part where the lieutenant accidentally blows the guy up with a grenade and gets away with it. And I had to pause it and just sit back and be like, oh, that's some good dark despair. If I smoked cigarettes, I would have just gone outside for a cigarette right at that point. This is dark. I love
Yeah.
it.
Smash cut. It's Films and
But
Filth. It's a Citizen Kate of podcasting. Mark, I interrupted Mark. Mark had something to say.
I was
Luke's
gonna
not
say
saying
but
anything.
and probably say something later
I'm
that I
mad.
was gonna say after the but. I was going to jump to the end, but
I'm
don't do that.
tossing you the floor again. I just want to do like
Hey.
I was thinking like a Marvel movie, smash cut titles on the screen, right?
Yep.
For us.
Avengers -15.
Yes. Okay. So yeah. I guess World War One is more of a like read a book about it sort of war, because then that's more fascinating. The details are more fascinating than the on the ground
Uh,
stuff. Like we're saying, is just like depressing. And I mean,
well,
it's all depressing, but sitting there reading the mechanics of things, you can't really put that in a
I mean,
movie so well.
I'm overly simplifying it, but I think that all of the little pieces of World War II just make it so much more dramatic that
Hmm.
it's this thing where people cannot resist spinning stories about it. And part of that is because Nazis on meth wanted revenge
Well, they
and
But
don't.
also,
believed in Satan and the occult
World
and
War
stuff.
One was mostly static, at least on the European
Hmm.
front, right? It was a war of attrition. Whereas World War
Hmm.
Two, there's movement, there's back and forth. They invade us, and then we invade them, and it's dramatic.
Although I would say, I think I've said before, they don't make many movies about the Eastern Front. That did move a lot because it was, in like what Western Russia or whatever. But that's the same, just like horribly violent,
Yeah, just men
depressing
in the meat
despair
grinder.
stuff, meat grinder of the trenches. I mean, that was worse than the trenches, really.
Yeah, that was like super World War One was that, and then that was only part of World War Two. But we're not talking about World War Two yet. I mean, wait,
I'm
We will
sure we will at
soon.
some point on this
we
list, right?
have
Das
we have
Boot's
like a
not
month ago,
before
and we
long.
will again. um, anyway, the
Oh
tagline for
yeah,
this
I guess I
picture,
wasn't counting Glorious Bastards as
Inglorious
a World War
Bastards.
II film, but it technically is.
Yeah, yeah, yes and no. The tagline for this is "It explodes in the no man's land no picture ever dared cross before."
Marketing
And
used to be a weird thing. I mean, sticking with Kubrick, go
well,
watch the 2001 original trailer.
I mean, there were studios who would not touch this, and it was banned in Spain until 1986, banned in France until 1978.
That's interesting.
Oh yeah. um, I didn't realize this is the French military until about halfway through it, unfortunately. I thought that when the American actors were talking about France, I thought they were, backing France up or helping them. I didn't realize that it just was France.
There's some American perspective for you, Luke.
Well,
I caught that one of them said like France pretty early on, so
The
yeah.
first time I watched this, I probably might have spent the first 10 to 15 minutes thinking it was the British Army, and then worked it out.
Mm.
I don't. I mean, I was enough of a history guy that I saw this at maybe age 17. Part of the film dork run. I was like, I gotta get in on the Kubricks, right? So,
Yep.
but yeah, I knew enough to not fall into that trap.
this is
But
our first Kubrick
Oh,
on the list, right?
oh no, we did 2001.
second.
Oh yeah, we did 2001.
Yeah.
I get confused because we did 2001 for the other podcast as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, this film was criticized for that when it came out. Like critics were like, "This is every time someone talk, some critic, I'm paraphrasing, they said something like every time someone opened their mouth, the illusion of it being France was completely destroyed."
But yeah, they didn't
Um,
even have a consistent accent across them, let alone a French one.
and they didn't even
Where
all
it
have
was like
French
half the actors are
names.
British, half American. Yeah, they were just using
Yeah.
surnames. Some guy turns up with like a New York accent.
Mark and I were talking yesterday, Red October, how the Russians are speaking English. And Mark, you said that annoyed you, but I like the fact
Yeah.
they do it in that cut where the guys, is it Sam Neill doing a quote, and they like zoom in on him, and just in the middle of the quote, it switches to English. And I thought that was cool. It's just like, hey folks, we're doing this, and please go along with our
Oh no,
conceit,
yeah, I'm not necessarily saying they should speak French. Just like there should be one consistent accent.
Everyone
Um,
does Pierce
Mm.
Chernobyl
Brosnan's
did it
accent from
really well.
Nomads. Look it up if you don't know it.
In Chernobyl, they do Russia, but like the different regions of Russia just have different British accents, and that
Oh,
worked
yeah.
really well.
That sounds like great. I mean, that's what Game of Thrones did, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not that Game of Thrones is a real place, but yeah, they thought about that stuff, and we just have to deal with um what's his name not having a good British accent at all.
In
But
1957 America, I mean, you're not going to really get a subtitled Hollywood movie out there. Does this count as a
No.
Hollywood movie? Okay. It's an American anti-war film. Who produced it? Production companies. It's okay. United Artists. So it's in that space.
Yeah, I believe it was. Now I have it here somewhere, but
Well, I was just thinking, is this something that you even could have like flirted with the idea of having subtitled in 1957? That it's not. And I should
honestly, I'm surprised they made it at all. I'm sure a lot of people were like, because I even Kubrick originally was like, well, we're gonna give this a happy ending because I don't think people could handle it. And then I think Kirk Douglas was like, "No, man, you gotta kill him." And then they did something where one of the producers passed a script off as unedited, but it had been edited to put the sad ending back in, and no one noticed.
Hmm.
and then they shot it without noticing. It's like the Ron Burgundy thing where he
Yeah,
reads whatever's on the teletype.
yeah. I mean, shot without notice is definitely a theme of this film.
um,
Um,
I
so
guess
this
I'll
is
do a
based on a real
story.
story. Oh, sorry,
Can I
go
do a
ahead.
story? I
Yeah,
can
do a
read the
story.
story that's
Please
based on a
do.
real story. Okay, and then you could
Mm-hmm.
go into detail on the real story.
Go
Matt's
for
going
it.
to read a story that's based on a film, that's based on a book, that's based on a real story.
There we go. It's promotion time for Brigadier General Paul Moreau in the trenches of World War One. If he can get his troops to take the anthill, a well-defended German position, he'll get another star on his cap. Of course, the attack is a failure and the troops quickly retreat. After first trying to fire on his own retreating soldiers in order to motivate them, Moreau decides to take a random selection of 3 troops, court-martial them, and execute them as an example. Well, the choice isn't completely random, as one of them, excuse me, as one of them, Corporal Paris, was chosen by Lieutenant Roget because Roget accidentally killed the scout in their scouting mission before the anthill assault. Colonel Dax, who is ordered to plan the attack against his own wishes, steps in to defend the men as he is a criminal defense lawyer in civilian life. But his skills work to no avail since the whole trial is basically a kangaroo court. The men are executed, though Dax achieves a small victory by whistleblowing the fact that Moreau fired on his own men during the attack. Okay. That's not the best summary I wrote. There's like important things that
Yeah,
just narratively don't fit in well, you know?
you don't have
Also,
to
I
put
think
everything in the
technically
summary.
he was a prosecutor before the war.
He
Um,
was.
okay, it was it. Okay, then I
I
trusted you
mean, yeah.
way too much on that.
It wasn't gone into very deeply, but yeah, this is based on a true story that happened in 1915. The lawyer part was not part of the true story. They 4 men were executed, and then get this. This is I can't believe they didn't put this in the story or the movie. 2 hours after the execution, the French High Command commuted their death sentences to forced labor after they died. Anyway, they were they were exonerated like 20 years later, and there are monuments to them now. So it's definitely something that
Hmm.
was people fully understand that it's an embarrassment. I looked up if the US had done anything like that, and they really haven't. The only thing I could find that was close to this was there's a guy who was executed for trying to run away, like desert.
Yeah, I was going to
But
say deserters were shot. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, we
but that
I
still
didn't really happen here much.
in
except that we still regularly execute people in the States.
Well, yeah, we execute
I,
people for being the wrong. I don't know.
I think France maybe still has the death penalty. I don't actually know that.
I don't think so. I think it's just actually I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just
I know
Japan
it's
and
a very
America.
small number. Yeah.
Yeah, for the first world quote unquote countries, it's just
Yeah,
Japan and America that still have the death
and
penalty.
there is a very real chance that there's a movement to end it here, and it might actually happen if we don't just fall into dictatorship super soon.
Then we can have extra executions, super executions.
Well,
The what was I going to say? Oh yeah, so not only did deserters get shot by the Americans, I visited where some deserters were shot by the Americans.
oh
The
man,
prison near my hometown, um, it held some American prisoners during the war, the Second War this time.
ah,
And yeah, they literally showed us the bullet holes in the wall from where some deserters had been shot. And they were
Jesus,
Native Americans, so no wonder they didn't want
oh
to die for
God,
the USA.
God,
Yeah, yeah. And you know,
well,
in war, it's kind of difficult to be, well, my country didn't do it as bad. It's like you did something else bad. It was a war.
Yeah,
that's
there's no good countries. It's kind of my
no.
what I've realized.
And this movie is great for exploring that because it's Americans playing French people, and you don't have to You know what I mean? It's sort of this thing where it's a feel bad and a feel good thing at the same time, because we can watch this as modern people and be like, of course that was evil. And also it wasn't, um was the French did make a version of this, a version of the original book for like in a made for TV movie that in the 2000s, and it's kind of highly rated. It was like 7.4, but I didn't look into watching it or anything. But
I
I
mean,
don't
we've
know.
got
It's a great story.
plenty of horrible wars going on at this moment, so it's humanity hasn't really moved past that yet. We
I mean,
pretended
Hasn't
maybe we
America
were for
had
a
like
while.
22 years of not being at war in its
Some
entire history?
something like that, yeah.
yeah, I might have been alive for some of that. I'm not really sure.
I guess
Probably not.
is America technically at war with anyone right now?
Oh,
I
this
don't
that's a
even
that's
know.
Yeah.
a
I don't
big
even
button issue
know.
because
Are we?
America loves to say it's not, but it absolutely is.
Well, yeah, we're
It's
sending.
bombing various places in the Middle East right now,
Yeah.
but being really coy about like how they're letting the news report it and stuff. I was listening to a whole thing about it recently.
um, I guess we'll talk a little bit about the folks in this movie. The only one that's straight up, like famous, I guess, is Kirk Douglas, but it's just like
Hmm.
a insane collection of like top flight character actors in here as well. Timothy Carey, that's who I want to talk about. You guys know
Oh yeah,
Timothy?
let's talk about him. He was amazing.
Which one was he?
Did you
He's the guy
the
that,
weird one? The guy
Oh,
who was just
okay, yeah, the one who his sergeant picked him to be executed because he was a weirdo,
yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
a social undesirable, I think he called him.
Right,
Did
right. But he has just his here we go. During the filming of Paths of Glory, Carey was reportedly disruptive and tried to draw more attention to his character. Due to this behavior, scene in which Carey and the other actors were served a duck dinner as a final meal before execution took 57 takes to complete, was not Kubrick's fault in that case. Carey then faked his own kidnapping to generate personal publicity, which prompted Kubrick and producer James B. Harris to fire him. As a result, the film does not depict the three condemned soldiers during the battle scene. Okay, and a double was used
yeah.
during the scene where a priest hears Carrie's confession. So he tried to bump his
Mhm.
fame by kidnapping himself during filming. That is a tale. That is a guy with a capital G, you know?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes the guy who seems really weird is. I mean, sometimes it's the guy you most expect.
1957 film Bayou features him as a demented Cajun shopkeeper named Ulysses. That sounds good.
Hmm. I don't think I've seen him in. He seems familiar, but I don't know that I've seen him in anything. And I'm
And
very open to watching the rest of his work.
there's a few more hits on him. He turned down The Godfather to be in a television pilot called Tweets Ladies of Pasadena, which was never sold or broadcast. Kick yourself in your own rear for that. And here's a recent. This has to do with this. Carey auditioned for the role of Joe Cabot in Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs.
Hmm.
The screenplay is dedicated to him. Okay, that's trippy. Anyway, just yeah, there's some characters in here. Is my point.
I mean, did you see the last three credits on his IMDb?
You can read them.
The Devil's Gas, Godfarter 3 screen test, and The Insect Trainer.
That's a good cap to your career. Yeah,
Do you want to hear the synopsis for The Insect Trainer?
sure. Why not?
Gasadi
Maybe I don't.
Gasadi is convicted of murder after farting so powerfully that a woman falls from her chair, hits the floor, and dies. The play is characteristic theater of the absurd, full of non sequiturs and jarring stage action. Well, it's the play for some reason. Okay.
Okay, that works.
Still. It looks
Um,
like it's just him and his son are the only people in the movie. Okay, that's interesting. Wow, his son looks like a weird scumbag. This is really interesting.
he looks like a weird scumbag.
No, I mean he's wearing like a purple silk suit with an unbuttoned white shirt under it with like the what do you call that, soul patch? You just have hair like right there on your chin.
Yeah, it's a soul patch.
That's how Garth Brooks turns into Chris Gaines. That went above
Oh yeah,
everyone's
that's
head.
right. He
Okay.
grows the soul patch
I
when the
knew
moon
Mark
comes
would
out.
I knew Mark would get it eventually. Um,
I got it.
this
Oh
is
no, I get it. I was just like staring at completely transfixed
hypnotized
by
by
this
the
guy.
soul patch.
Yeah. All
Okay.
right. we'll just get back to that later.
Anyway, the point being that there's many interesting, very good. Joe Turkel shows up in like I think 4 more Kubrick movies after this. But yeah, Kirk Douglas is the star, and it's this weird time when Kirk Douglas basically made like Kubrick his man, right? Because they did Spartacus, and it's kind of after that that Kubrick is kind of, becomes like the Kubrick we know.
Yeah,
Well,
well, he had to make the money before he could just do whatever he wants.
Right. Luke, have you seen Spartacus? Mark, you just told me you had not.
I think I've seen Spartacus, but we're talking 30 years ago because
Are
my
you
granddad was
Spartacus?
watching it. I am Spartacus.
Are you
I used to want
Sporticus?
to I used to want to go to a live Lazy Town event just so that we could be in the audience scattered and then stand up and go, no, I am Sporticus.
that's great. um, yeah, but yeah, Kirk Douglas, at least to some extent, just helped this film get made, and then with Spartacus, he helped end the blacklist, which is wild
Yeah.
because he was just like, fuck it, Dalton Trumbo is credited. That's how it works, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that was
Okay.
Okay,
find
So
him in his
king.
bathtub writing away.
yeah, yeah, and reading up on Kirk Douglas, it's like he's pretty cool in
He was just
general.
someone who was a famous white guy and used it for good.
Yeah,
They're always pretty cool
exactly.
guys.
Yeah, yeah, but it's like a thing where he's an immigrant, a Jewish immigrant who came here with nothing and then worked and probably threw papers or something. I
That
don't
said,
really
on
Yeah.
know.
screen, I think I do prefer Michael Douglas because I want that, cocaine scumbag energy.
But like Kirk Douglas in this, when he starts getting kind of aggro with the defense, he starts channeling that 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea thing where he's like, I object. He has like that growl that's just really fun, like squeaky or almost Chris Farley voice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying he's not great in movies. I'm just having
Oh
thoughts
yeah.
about Michael. I was like, in this case, I think I
Well,
kind of
I
dig
mean,
Son on screen better.
Michael Douglas is in Basic Instinct.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He's in a Verhoeven. Yeah.
Yeah. Verhoeven is like the Kubrick of, no, not really,
Well,
but
speaking of the Kubrick of today, we all know Christopher Nolan wants to be the Kubrick of today.
yes.
And the one thing I noticed, this film does not show any German soldiers. And in both of Nolan's World War II movies, he never shows any of the enemy.
Hmm. I did not notice that. I mean, I
Yeah.
think I noticed that this was actually filmed in Germany, which is kind of
The
interesting.
only German you see in the whole film is that woman they make sing at the end.
Who's
And
also the only woman in the film.
Yeah.
and after this film, she marries Stanley Kubrick and stays married to him until his death.
Oh, I wondered if that was her because I knew his wife was German.
Yep.
Mm.
Pretty interesting. I
Yeah.
didn't know what was gonna happen at that end scene. I was like, I thought it was gonna
I
get
thought it was going to go real dark. Yeah.
No, it just
yeah.
goes wartime melancholic, I guess. That is
Yeah,
an
I
interesting scene. Like I felt like I should have put it into my summary, but I was like, what am I going to write about it?
No, I
yeah, he
love the
sees the
ending.
guys having a party and thinks, "Oh, let him stay for a minute."
That's yeah, it's like the what do you call it? Natural life,
Naturalism.
naturalistic ending. Yeah. I love that, especially because there's so much bleak. This is the thing. I know I said earlier that I like was loving how dark the movie was. I have never wanted anything more than I wanted these guys to not get executed,
Yeah, I get it.
which means it worked.
Hmm.
I'm just like, oh god, just please just don't make me watch these guys get shot. And I like totally respect this film for doing it. But
See, I knew I was convinced they were going to get shot, but what I was hoping for, which would have been a bit more Hollywood than this film
mhm.
was that they would get to the firing range and the general would just be there next to them.
Oh
That would
yeah.
have been fun.
Like he'd been
Yeah.
tried or they'd been in prison and he was getting shot too.
If this was Dr. Strangelove, that might have happened.
Yeah.
Just
What
like,
what happens then?
well,
Does he with the general? What do they
Oh,
do
he
in a
gets a
war?
he gets a slap on a wrist.
Yeah,
And,
as well say maybe at
yeah,
worst he gets a dishonorable discharge and goes home on a
yeah.
pension.
I doubt it.
He has
Yeah, I feel
crimes
like
10 times worse than theirs, but there's no way he gets shot for his.
yeah. I also did not see coming the whole thing where he's like, "Wait, you didn't want a promotion? You actually wanted to save those guys?"
I loved the sort of the disbelief in his voice that someone could have just earnestly wanted to like save his men.
Yeah, because we've all I don't know, we've all met somebody like that who's just like, wait, what? You weren't just you weren't just, climbing the ladder?
I
What?
don't get it. What's in it for you? What's in it for you? Why would you have done
What's in
that?
it for you? Yeah, like you say something nice to somebody and be like, I don't trust you.
Yeah.
That's one of the
Um,
great production things in here. Yeah, like we said, the trenches are grimy and depressing, and then we have the very. I mean, you watch it now and like, oh, those are full on Kubrick shots in black and white of the opulous palace
Hmm.
rooms that the generals party in and hang out in.
If it
yeah.
was a fictional world, we would say it was too on the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that. Those motivations don't
Like
make
some
any
Hunger
sense.
Games
Nobody
shit,
would do
like
that. Exactly.
how are they living in this opulence, but just 2 miles away, men are in a just stuck in a hole to die.
It's interesting comparing this to Lawrence of Arabia, where it's sort of like you you see people in Lawrence of Arabia that are kind of like bullshitters, but it's still sort of a feels like it's polite. They're trying to make it polite society, and this is just like full on. We are an impolite society.
There's an
Man is
Americanism I have. I never think of Lawrence of Arabia as a World War One movie. I mean, once of course it is, but that just never really like registers for whatever reason. Maybe it's the desert music
well,
that does
uh,
it.
It's
they
just
don't.
because World War I, we hear so much about the trenches, we forget all about the other fronts.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Also, even though we watched Lawrence of Arabia not that long ago, I'm sat here thinking it was World War II.
Oh, that was my
I
first thought, and then I was like, oh no, that's the first one, isn't it? Because I've already mentioned this in well, of course, this we're talking about in All Quiet on the Western Front, and
Hmm.
yeah,
But that's exactly why Lawrence of Arabia registers in my head immediately as a World War One movie because I didn't know anything about what the movie was about when we went into it. So it's like,
Right.
oh, me not know? Then yeah, that I'd probably know more about Vietnam than I know about that, and I don't really know much about Vietnam.
did anybody watch 1917? I did not.
No, I didn't.
No, I wanted to, but
I
I
do
haven't
want to
gotten
see
around
it
to it.
just from curious. I am always interested in seeing like one take films.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Um,
but also like World War I is very grim, and I don't like watching it.
yeah, I would
So
just
Yeah.
that's probably one of the reasons I haven't seen it.
I went to I did go to the battlefields and the graves in France on a school trip. Um, and yeah, just fields as far as the eye can see of gravestones is pretty harrowing. But the one that really got me was at the end of the trip we saw the German grave singular because for all of the Allied troops got individual headstones with their names. The Germans just got a mass grave,
Oh,
and I saw that
yeah.
and I'm like, oh, okay, I see why World War II happened.
Yeah, yeah. The other one, I guess there were battles for both wars, but I keep forgetting that Dunkirk is actually a World War II.
Yeah, World War II is like Dunkirk is sort of the failed first attempt at us going over to Europe, and then you have the Battle of Britain, and then finally the actual D-Day and everything.
Yeah.
We
But
have a
World War I,
Beeman.
the British soldiers are on, on the mainland from day one till the end, basically. Oh yeah, there's another good World War I movie, Narnia.
Uh, is that no? That's the second one because it's the
Oh, you're right,
Blitz.
it is. It's the Blitz. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's just not as many. So
Yeah.
Oh,
um, they were having a Beeman, although do we have it's just
Maybe.
the inkling. So we'll continue.
Oh, here we
Um,
go. Yeah. Your special guest, special last minute guest. Uh,
uh,
Hey guys,
hey,
I,
Will.
yeah. What's up?
I heard it was 9 o'clock, but that's I guess 9 o'clock in America.
oh no, it's 9 o'clock for
I'm
Luke and myself. But
yeah,
Oh
you're an hour behind.
man,
Yeah.
anyway,
I was
don't worry.
man,
saying
Time zone jumbles always happen. I just had to redo a Zoom link on my own because you think 6:30 and then it's like 16:30. Those are different times. So
Yep.
but shouldn't time probably be in 10-hour increments? Probably.
We should be running on metric time.
metric
Yes, metric
time.
time.
everyone just calls it the same time at all times. So it's 3 p.m., but
100.
it's like dark out, you know? That's
See,
fine.
people
100
argue with
minute.
me about this, but I do think we should just have the same time everywhere. Because it's not like you wake up at 1 and go to bed at 10.
Yeah, I
Like
was
we
kind of
wake up
thinking it
at
was a good
7. That's
idea
an
as I said it.
arbitrary number anyway.
I was kind of thinking it was a good
Like,
idea. Like at first I was
yeah.
being snarky, but as I started to say, I was like, actually, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, we should just have one 24-hour clock, and then you just wake up at whatever time and go to bed at whatever time it shares.
Well, China basically has one time zone. So from Beijing all the way out to Tibet is one time. So apparently when you get all the way out to Tibet, they have like local time and what time it should be listed on like train walls because it's like bright middle of the day at like noon or at midnight.
Oh, Will, why don't we toss you the floor on Paths of Glory? We've said, I don't know, 5 things about it at this point, maybe 6.
I
Yeah.
really enjoyed. I don't know what you guys have said. I really enjoyed watching it. I really enjoyed. I think what struck me about it was how. And stop me if you've already covered this, but 10 years earlier, I think it would have been a completely different sort of message about bravery and war. But the '50s was such a dark time for cinema. You get so many great like just sort of hard boiled like actual truth kind of gritty stories in the '50s that you weren't getting earlier. And I think that that's something that's really powerful about this one.
I guess that kind of makes sense because you're talking 10 years earlier. The dark films then would have been like the straight up film noirs, right? And then
Well,
you think, oh wait, Kubrick's first 2 films are basically film noirs.
right, right. Well, I mean, in the '40s though, they would have been in World War II at the time. So a
Yeah.
war movie any war movie out of Hollywood would have been about we have to be brave and we have to do a great job to fight the Germans and the Japanese, and
Yeah,
there'd
if
be a
Kubrick had
flag
made
at
this
the end.
film during the war, he would literally have been tried as a criminal, I think.
And he
Yeah,
would have
yeah,
been a
yeah, yeah.
teenager.
Yeah. It would have
Well, I
it
mean,
would have had John Wayne, and it would have been a completely different message. But the like late '50s, getting into the '60s, '57, the people were just ready for much sort of like more dark kind of themes about war itself.
I'm looking at a list of war films of the 40s, and I mean, I see names of actors that I recognize, but I don't know. For Whom
I-
the Bell Tolls,
Yeah, well,
Hangmen
yeah.
Also Die, Hitler's Madmen.
Ooh.
Sounds
Yeah, I usually
exciting.
think of, John Wayne and the fighting sea bees or the flying tigers, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, this
Right.
movie feels like it would have triggered John Wayne pretty hard.
Probably.
It did. Well, listen here, you French bastards.
I'm gonna make the Green Berets. Well, yeah, if you want
No,
John Wayne war movie, there you go. Like
don't.
with his, evolved old man political sensibilities, you can watch the Green Berets.
Well, I'm not no sissy. We're gonna go film this film in the nuclear crater. Anyway, they all
You're a
died.
sissy if you
Yeah.
don't want to face a firing squad for no particular reason.
Look, if your general wants a promotion, then by gum, he's gonna get it. He's gonna walk over your executed bodies. Like,
So-
so you guys feel like you've ever worked under somebody who would have you executed for promotion?
Oh yeah.
Okay, that was a
Oh
quick
yeah.
one.
Matt, answer carefully.
Huh?
There-
You're gonna kill me.
It could be somebody that nobody has ever met. He could be somebody in America that wanted him killed.
Mhm.
Yeah,
He worked in
Um,
America.
Before I came to Japan, I worked
Sounds
with
so funny.
hippies at, educational
when
environmental.
I worked in
education schools.
supermarkets, I was definitely around this shit. all
Oh
the
yeah,
time.
people would
Yeah.
kill you at a supermarket for promotion, right? To become
I
god
work-
of the butchery.
I
Yeah.
work with people like that now, I think.
Yeah. Well, there's
But-
something.
but-
I mean, go ahead, Will.
Well, I was just going to point out, and I thought it was interesting that two different people in this movie who are in positions of authority, one of them tries to blow up his own troops with artillery, and the other one actually manages to do it with a grenade. Like two
Yep.
different people try and one of them is successful in blowing up their own guys.
I bet
Yeah,
they still managed to blow up a few of their own guys in that battle. You know, friendly fire is just a regular course of action.
Well, yeah, he's listing off the probable casualties. Like, yeah, 10% from our bullets.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know if you guys have talked about this, but why didn't they just go at nighttime, first of all?
Because they were like,
Mm,
we have to take it on
Is-
this day, was the whole thing.
because they couldn't see if it was night, I guess.
Yeah, I think
I don't
actually a
know.
night attack probably would favor the defenders in that
Mm.
situation.
Mm.
That's why none of us are a colonel.
Yeah, it's almost like the general.
Because that's cowardice, Will.
Think of the French and think of how bad you would look if you did that.
Wounds
Yeah,
on the
and
back are a warrior's shame.
Oh no, these are the
Yeah.
these are the surrender monkeys in this movie, aren't they? Because they turn around and retreat.
in the
Right.
book, it wasn't called the anthill, it was called the pimple. And they decided when they were writing the script that was too funny, and they decided still the anthill is a great name for something that does not matter at all and should not be
Yeah.
Yeah.
have a 1,000 guys thrown at it.
When the 80s, we get Hamburger Hill, right?
I'd rather still sounds more significant than an anthill. I don't know.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you leave a
Depends.
hamburger hill out long enough, it becomes an anthill.
Good point.
More like a maggot hill. Maggot hill. Maggots
Yeah,
get up the maggot hill.
You know, Maggot Hill sounds appropriately grim for a World War One dying field.
There, I stumbled into the correct name for it
Uh,
then. Good for me, I guess.
if I had to rename this movie, it would be called "I'll Fucking Kill You for a Promotion." I guess it shouldn't have the word "fucking" in the title since it's 1957. but,
That's
you
what I
know.
thought, but then I changed my mind and decided it should be there.
Rated X.
For
I don't think there was an X-rated movie yet at that point.
no, there wasn't, but there were nudie cuties. You can see a nudie, and
Yeah.
they
That's great. We'll make that.
documentaries of nudist camps. That's what you could watch. In
We'll
like
make it
50s.
that. We'll make a nudie cutie that's called "I'll Fucking Kill You for a
The
Promotion." It'll
anthill
be a
is
war
just a
movie.
nude camp.
And you guys,
It's
you
a
guys
boob.
you guys need a time machine and go back and pitch this to Kubrick. I think he would have loved it.
and then asked us to leave his office as quickly as possible.
I mean, he would have loved it as long as we said it in front of a producer who had annoyed. That's what Kubrick seems like to me from reading all the trivia, is that he really liked what's his name, who got fired until he got fired because he annoyed Kirk
Carrie.
Douglas so much. Carrie, yeah, he liked Carrie so much because he annoyed Kirk Douglas. And then when he crossed the line and annoyed Kubrick, then he got fired.
Right.
Classic.
I think, by the way, I think this was probably like a really good way to make a low budget movie. Was the other thing I was thinking about. I don't know if you guys talked about that already, but just dig a hole and get some costumes, you know, and the trench goes on forever. You know, they have this long tracking shot through the trench and it looks fantastic, but really they
Yeah, those
probably,
shots are
I mean,
great.
they just got some guys to dig a hole for
Well,
like
also, a lot of the trenches are actually maintained for like by historical society. So maybe they just filmed in a real trench.
wow,
Well,
that would have saved even more time.
What I read up on was that they actually dug the trenches a little bit wide because they had to get like the cameras
Camera equipment. No, yeah,
moved
yeah.
around
Right.
on dollies, and I think there was some pushback about the historical accuracy because the trenches were not historically correct width, which sounds like something Kubrick would be annoyed by. But
Huh.
Here's a
Yeah.
fun
Well,
wiki typo.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was trying to look, and yeah, basically what Mark's saying is checked out. But someone wrote in this wiki this sentence, which as an English teacher I thought was funny. This made it easier for he's talking about 5 regions for the battlefield, so they can do the explosions one time. This made it easier for Kubrick to film the dying of extras. I mean, I know what they're saying. It just sounds funny that way.
No, kill the extras for real. Authenticity is key.
That's right.
He was the same way later with Shelley Duvall.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you won't go out and die for this film, then you're a coward. You should be shot.
Yeah, I mean, can we put Kubrick in the role of General Miro and then Shelley Duvall was the executed men? Did that just Did this just come true later?
And he gets his promotion to auteur. I guess he
Yeah.
had that by The Shining already, but
I think there's something about that. Like when people get too addicted to when people get too powerful and then get too addicted to getting what they need by getting a rise out of people, then maybe they're going to go too far with somebody and ruin their mental health forever. Because I've definitely, we've all seen where somebody's picking on somebody and it's obvious, like the thing where they're just having fun, but then the person is just having a rough time with it. But we'll save that for when we talk about that movie. Do we talk about that movie? We probably
what
do,
movie?
right?
Shining?
Shining?
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure Shining's there somewhere. Although,
Yeah.
I
way
don't,
down the road.
I don't think we can blame. Maybe you can blame Kubrick a little bit. If you've seen any videos of Shelley Duvall in the past 10 years, it's kind of depressing.
Also, I think she
Yeah.
she has gone on record saying like it's pretty kind of blown out of proportion, right?
Yeah, but she also is having some like serious issues. If you see any clips of her on YouTube, like in interviews and stuff, she's not doing well up there.
Well, she's definitely suffering from mental illness, but it's it's impossible obviously to say whether that was how much of that was Kubrick and how much of it wasn't. But I mean, Kubrick was not very nice to her. I mean, that's
Yeah.
fact.
Well, Kubrick wasn't nice to anyone.
And she was also on the Popeye set.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things
too.
it would have turned out like that either way. It's just the thing where we all know the story, so we can bring the story up.
Yeah.
But most people who suffer from major mental issues will tell you they're fine. And sometimes it seems like the worse they're doing, the more great they insist they're doing. Which is
yeah. That's why it's
extra
important to check in with your friends, folks.
check in with your friends, tell them, hey, maybe have you eaten enough today? Put on, maybe shower, take a nap.
I haven't done any of those things yet.
Call one of your
Oh,
friends
you're-
and be like, "Hey, bitch, you stink."
I'm gonna chase you around an old hotel.
Sure.
I cannot do that.
You could do that in Japan. We have lots of
We
dilapidated
got lots of
hotels.
abandoned hotels, yeah.
Oh, cool. All right,
Me
well,
and
I'll
Matt
put
are
that on
gonna
the to-do
pivot
list.
to one of those YouTube channels that just explores abandoned buildings.
We'll just make a YouTube channel. I'll visit for a week. We'll film like 1,000 videos of you guys chasing me through old abandoned hotels and then build it
Screaming.
out slowly. Yeah.
Dude, we got
We
some.
probably would get rich doing that, man.
Yeah, I'll be your Carl Pilkington or something.
We got,
That was
as
his
an
name,
aside,
right?
just as a totally unrelated aside, we have a bunch of those in Hong Kong too. And the old Shaw Brothers studio is just rotting in the jungle, and I've broken into it a number of times.
Didn't you say they were actually tearing that down at this point, or are they still not
They
done with that?
they've been tearing that down for a few years now. I don't know. It's like they tear it down, they tear bits of it down, and then you go back and there's still bits of it left. So I actually don't know how much is there now, but yeah, it's like it was major Indiana Jones find, just like this rotted, dilapidated building full of film canisters.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
There's I think didn't one of them make a cameo in the last film that I scored?
Probably.
Content?
Yeah. In Blake's movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, abandoned for some reason. That's true here too. We got abandoned, like really giant abandoned structures in the jungle that people are just like, well, I don't want that anymore. So
I feel like for some reason in my head, because Shaw Brothers made like 300 films, that in my head the complex is just the size of an airport, and that's not the case.
It was, yeah, for sure. It
Yeah.
was when we first went in there, and that was about 2016, and nobody had messed with it yet. It went on and on and on and on forever. Yeah. But now it's gonna be really expensive real estate. So,
Of course.
But-
I mean, I wish I'd gotten to see Kowloon Walled Garden. Did you ever see that shit? That
Oh,
was
no,
way
yeah.
before you moved.
that was way before I was here. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were
Matt,
talking like documentary wise. Yeah, I've watched like 8 documentaries on that.
Matt, did you ever visit the arcade that was themed? That was the themed of the Kowloon Walled Garden that was somewhere in Japan?
Ooh, I guess
That
not.
sounds
know
a
about
little sensitive.
I'm asking Matt because I think that was before Luke moved there.
The most I'm thinking is that you went to was the Namja town, right? Where they
No,
had
I
the
didn't
weird...
go to it. I would have known.
No. I'm just talking about weird arcades. You went to Namja Town, which had the different themed areas. Like one was alien
Oh,
attack, and one part was like Vietnam. Like apparently the cat's memories were in Vietnam, and there was an ice cream city. You remember the ice cream city?
oh yeah, it was
Yeah.
Ice Cream City. That was
It was
the
Ice
sign
Oh,
Cream
said.
isn't
City.
Town the one
It
in
said Ice Cream City.
Ikibukuno?
That's right, Sunshine
But
City.
now
Yeah.
now it's only like
Right.
a small part of the building.
Oh, that's too bad.
So-
So
Yeah,
yeah,
Mercy was telling me about it.
I
That's
would
where
just
we
say,
bought Hannah's stuff.
oh, okay.
Japan is just weird sometimes.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
shit. No, but the arcade I'm thinking of closed in 2019 actually on Anata no Warehouse in Kawasaki. It was
Oh no,
five-story
I haven't.
Oh
arcade.
damn! I would have been here. I could have gone to it too.
And I wish I knew you so I could have told you to go.
I didn't know about that one. No.
I'm looking at pictures of it and it looks incredible. I mean, it really looks like an old abandoned weird war city.
We'll take it as a
Mm.
badge of honor, World War I style, that you made it to Namja Town while it was in its prime.
Oh
That
yeah.
counts for
Well, I
something.
mean, you guys will find more cool themed arcades. There's stuff there.
Yeah, there's always stuff.
There's
So,
always stuff. That's
Oh,
what
there's
this
always
movie is
stuff.
about.
um,
There's always stuff.
I guess we do have to put this like kind of head to head with Full Metal Jacket, which is not actually on our list.
No.
So.
This is a tough one. I don't like this more than Doctor Strangelove, but I might like it more than Full Metal Jacket, even though the first half of Full Metal Jacket is probably better than this.
That's what I was gonna say, something
complicated.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
As a complete movie, yeah, Paths of Glory is better, but that was first. Like I think I've seen the first 45 minutes of Full Metal Jacket probably like more than a dozen times, and I've seen the rest of the movie twice.
I really like this for showing me that Kubrick could do a nice, tight 90-minute film.
Yeah,
Well,
agreed.
you'll get Doctor Strangelove in a month
Yeah,
or two,
true.
so you'll
Well,
get another one.
This still, I like Doctor Strangelove better, but I think this film is tighter than that, personally.
I'm gonna agree with you. I love Doctor Strangelove most of all of his films. The Killing as well before this one was amazing. But just it's really watchable. Well, one thing I don't know, maybe you guys already mentioned this, but Kubrick still always has that sort of aesthetic of like a long, like in The Shining, it's a long hallway with a focal point in the middle, kind of a thing. He does that a lot. Or in 2001, there's the circular like spaceship like walkie thing, which is like like a long focal point with a and I think that the trenches were definitely he was definitely like sort of figuring that out here, which is really
Kubrick
cool
was
to
made
see.
to film trenches.
Yeah. And it's really cool to see like early artists before, because sometimes artists get like really sort of they read their own press and they get really into their own sort of aesthetic, and that's sort of when they fall apart for me. But I think that early here, Kubrick is just really sort of figuring out how to make a movie, and it's really works.
Rolling up to the execution poles, that is an extremely
I mean-
Kubrick shot.
Yeah, sure.
Talking about someone falling for their own press, Kubrick like actively spread the legend of Stanley Kubrick, right? It was he knew full well what he was doing.
I mean, yeah, give him if he'd lived a few more years, he might have had himself kidnapped. You guys, here's a weird question. Do you guys think if Christopher Nolan announced today he's remaking this, would you be excited or would you kind of roll your eyes a little bit?
He already made Dunkirk. That's an eye roll.
Dunkirk is Dunkirk is my second favorite of his films, honestly. I still think Dunkirk is a way different movie than this.
It is. I'm
like-
just like I feel like Christopher Nolan has done his war thing already, so I'd roll my eyes if he wanted to do another one. Like especially after 2 movies in between only. I don't know.
I mean, he made 3 Batman movies. There's no reason he couldn't do 2 war movies.
No, that's true.
Well-
I just I guess I don't want to see Nolan's war film. I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
mean,
prefer Nolan when he's doing something wacky than like Dunkirk and Oppenheimer are good films, but I'm not going to watch them the way I watch The Prestige and Interstellar and stuff like that.
If Kubrick was still alive and they gave him the same budget of Dunkirk, I wonder how much different this movie would have been. I think one of the charms of it actually is that they didn't have any money. He was able to do so much with very, very, because like the studio wasn't investing a lot in this. Was sort of a like it was a big picture, but it was a throwaway picture. It had like one, maybe two stars in it. So
Mhm.
if he had a
Yeah.
bunch more money, I wonder what he would have done with it.
I mean, Full Metal Jacket feels a lot like what he would do with more money because it does have the war is hell message a few times in it. It's just sort of more modern, right? Or that was like Vietnam, right?
Yeah, point, highlighting the pointless deaths, all that sort of
When
thing.
this
But
film was
yeah.
being made, what war was America in? Were they fighting Korea at this point in time?
Korea was
Yeah.
over. We had
I haven't asked you,
advisors
but-
in Vietnam. No, that even
Oh,
might have
no,
been a
yeah.
few years later when the
Yeah.
advisors started
No,
showing up.
Vietnam wasn't happening yet. Korean War ended in 53, so
Well,
this
the
was
French would
kind of a
disagree.
peacetime
But this
thing.
was one
Oh,
of the very brief periods of peace, too.
yeah.
Mm.
So and yeah, Vietnam didn't really go full on until the
Oh no, not
mid-
until 64. But I mean, America, because it was the French's problem for. I think in 57 the French were actively involved in Vietnam, and
Oh,
then we
that might be
start.
why the film focused on a French story.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at because the French
Okay.
were in it, and then America just slowly took it over and you know, Gulf of Tonkin, then took it over
Oh,
completely, and then lost it. 'Cause
wow. I'm yeah, you're right. I didn't realize that the Vietnam War officially started in 1955. That's
okay,
wild.
but that's the French at the time, and I don't know when America started
Um,
sending people, but
I
yeah.
I'm
That would have
trying to
been
find the timeline, but
Kennedy was sending in advisors, I think, but it was, and he died in 63, and then Johnson came in and started throwing everything he had at it. So that would have been 63, 64 when we escalated.
mhm.
But also, as far as this movie being French, I love that they're like, we're French. See, we have these French helmets and we sound like we're from California and we're French.
Yeah. I feel like this had to be if this movie had been retrofitted to be about the American army, then people would have just burned the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's a tale as old as time, right? If you want to criticize your government, you make a film that's no, it's about something else entirely.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Wasn't Lord of the Rings about World War One?
I mean, yeah, Tolkien was in World War One,
Oh yeah.
and he was sending
I-
chapters of World War Two to his sons. Chapters of Lord of the Rings to his
He
sons.
wrote World War II.
Fighting World War
Wow.
Wow.
He was
No
way
wonder
ahead
it
of his
was
time.
so epic. This is like that Will Ferrell movie
Yeah,
where
I was
he's
about to say
inside the book.
that, but I couldn't remember the actress's name. Emma Thomas, is that who's in it?
Oh, are you thinking of Adaptation? That
No,
was Nick
I'm thinking the
Cage.
Will Ferrell one you're thinking of. Um, well, we'll give you a chance to if you got another point, but I do want to just move on to our couple bits of
Sorry, I
format
just had
here.
one more quick point I want to make. My favorite Vietnam movie is Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah, perfect. See, you
Right.
can't criticize the Americans, so you criticize the Ewoks. Wait, no, you're not criticizing the
They criticize the
Ewoks.
Empire. But like I
Okay.
saw an interview fairly recently where James Cameron and George Lucas were sitting down together and talking about like, I keep seeing in the news they're complaining about rebels. Back when we made films, rebels were the good guys. And George Lucas just straight up says, yeah, in my movies the rebels are the Viet Cong.
Hell yeah.
Sure.
And then they're small teddy bears with spears.
Well, you got to sell the toys. You got to sell the Viet Cong toys.
No, I continually say my teddy bears are Ewoks, so I can't. I'm stuck in this. That's what happened in my life.
I'm gonna teach
Well.
my daughter all of her history with Star Wars movies.
Sure.
Nice. You teach her politics with episode 1.
This
Yeah,
is how
this
is
democracy
the Senate.
dies. With thunderous applause.
Yeah. We're gonna watch 3 movies about democracy dies, and then watch the
So,
Viet Cong teddy bears.
Paths of Glory, film or filth. I guess it's a film about filth.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
That's my
it's a
take. Film
film
about filth.
It's a film about filth getting a promotion.
Yeah.
I don't-
And I mean, World War One
Um,
trenches must and active in World War One. That must be the filthiest place possible, right?
yeah. Yeah, that was one of the hard things for me to deal with about this movie is like even if these guys get out of this, they're basically in hell It's like you imagine not getting executed and then having to just go and risk your
Just
life
straight
again
back
for
to
these
World War
people.
One. Yeah.
I was
Here's a
Well, one
big
of
my
the
no-
when they're on the way to the execution, one of the guards taking them is just like, because obviously it's pretty grim the way they're just being like, "Come on, man up, take it on the chin." But he's like,
Yeah.
"Plenty of us are going to join you before this is over."
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but being
yeah. I
caught by a stray bullet in the no man's land versus being, ritually shot is, I don't know. Is
I
it
would
better when
rather
you
Yeah,
be
don't see it
shot
coming?
by.
it's being shot
Yes,
for cowardice, despite the fact that you
Mm.
just ran into a hail of bullets. It's
yes,
pretty
and
heinous.
I think the
and
worst part is one of those guys was asleep and they woke him up.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just let the guy sleep at least. Let him sleep through it if you
Well, they
can. That would
literally
be
said like, no, the general wants him conscious.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Jesus.
pretty fucked.
Yep.
I put in my notes that if that was me there, I would just be renouncing the shit out of the French government. I would just be screaming like "fuck France!" Like
Yeah.
there would. I guess that's why I'm not in the military. I'm like just waiting for the government to do something that pisses me off, and then I renounce them while they execute me.
One more comparison. How do you folks feel about the final season of Blackadder, series of Blackadder, the World
Oh
War one?
wow. Yeah.
Well,
Amazing.
I think like this and that get to the same point, which is you can't really talk about World War One without making it a black comedy because it
Yeah,
is just absurd.
Right.
It
yeah.
is just like these fucking, aristocratic idiots not understanding that the world has changed, trying to fight a war the same way they fought it when it was, gentlemen
Mhm.
with swords, and just sending millions of men to die for no reason at all.
Right.
But I was
Like,
thinking one
there
of the
is
most
no, like, it's sensible read of World War One. It is a joke. It's a cosmic joke.
I mean,
Yeah,
reading about the
for sure.
assassination of Franz Ferdinand is I haven't gone into super a lot of depth about it, but it does sound ridiculous, almost like something that you'd see in a gangster film. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
hey, is that
It's
Franz
like
Ferdinand over there? I'm gonna fucking kill him. Like
yeah,
that's not
everyone
that
just
bad,
had
right?
dumb agreements that once this happens and this happens, oh, we got to do it now. So you have like
yeah.
8 dumb agreements all falling into place and for the worst possible situation.
Famously, like Germany got the blame for starting the war. But one of the reasons for that is just that their trains left on like a Thursday and everyone else is left on a Friday. So their soldiers were in place first, so they started the war. Like,
God.
and like, yeah, the Franz Ferdinand assassination was like a I can't remember their names. The brothers what make films that are funny.
Farrelly
Fargo.
brothers.
No, Fargo.
Oh,
Coen brothers.
Coen
Oh,
Coen
brothers.
it's
brothers.
yeah,
Yes,
the assassination of Franz Ferdinand was total Coen brothers shit.
man.
Right.
Just throwing the
Yeah, it
grenade
really
and
was.
missing and then picking it up and
Going
Yeah,
down the wrong street, yeah, all
yeah,
that
just
sort of stuff.
he takes the wrong turn, but so do they, so they happen to find him.
I know there's some kind of incredibly good movie about it. I just don't know what it is.
It should be.
Oh,
Uh,
that's what we're gonna make.
I guess
Yeah.
I have a
By
1-star
coming.
review I can do here.
All right, I'll see if it's the same one I'm looking at because there's
Is
only
it this
four.
movie is unwatchable?
Yes.
Okay. The only explanation I have for this movie's 10-star reviews from otherwise intelligent people is groupthink. If everyone says it's great, then it must be great. Nothing about this movie rings true. The acting, save for the woman at the end, is stilted, and the worst offenders being Adolphe Menjot, I don't know if I said his name right, George
Menu.
McCready. Kirk Douglas is not much better, in the scene where he tells off Adolphe Menjot is cringe-inducingly bad, and the sets, except for the palace from which the generals preside, don't lend any air of authenticity at all. I guess we don't agree with that because we had to figure out if he made them or not. Worst of all, the movie's based on a lie. If you don't believe me, check out Goofs on IMDb's homepage for this movie.
I did. There's
Yeah?
nothing there about it
Okay.
being a lie.
I'll
That
go
is
to my
debunked.
grave trying to figure out why this movie is considered to be a big deal. Will he go in front of a firing squad for that, though?
Kubrick
Yeah,
had his way.
16 out of 89 find it helpful.
yeah, it's like
Wow.
movie critics. I'll line them up and shoot them.
Oh, here's the first one. The one and only reason I wanted to see this movie was to see Tim Carrey. I'm like, yeah, sure, okay.
Right.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's why I brought that one up was because I was like, huh, really? The goofs say that the movie's based on a lie, and I saw nothing in the goof section about that. Whatever that was, was
Maybe when you
probably
wrote it.
itself no, it was probably itself a lie and then deleted because that's the internet.
Mm.
You know, it's like if all the research you do is okay, that's not fair because a lot of research I do is just the section of IMDb, so never mind.
The review is March
But I could be
31st,
wrong.
2007.
Yeah.
So it's been a while. Things
Yeah.
things on the internet change over time.
It's okay to get facts about actors from IMDb. Don't get your opinions on World War One from IMDb.
And well, I did see this I did see this movie on a list that was like movies that you love but dictators hate, which is really fun.
Yeah, okay. I'll go with that. Is The Dictator on the list?
Yes, the dictator is like the first one,
Not The Great Dictator,
or
The
the
Dictator.
great dictator.
Not yeah, no, that's not what I'm talking about, even though we're
No, he's
about
Oh,
talking
it's
about the
not what
Seth
you're talking
Rogen
about?
one where they try to assassinate Kim Jong Un. Oh no, that's the interview. What's the dictator?
That's
That's
the
the
interview.
Sacha
That is
Baron
the
Cohen
Cohen
one.
Sacha
It's
Baron Cohen one.
Chaplin, right?
Great dictator is Chaplin. The
Yeah.
dictator is
Yes.
Sacha Baron Cohen. The interview is Seth
The
Rogen.
Great
Okay,
Dictator
we've
is
got
what
to
I was
the. we've
thinking.
got to the
And
bottom of it.
just to be extra confusing, we just
Okay.
I guess we just did we haven't
guys
recorded
ready?
the correct. Yeah, go ahead.
Movies you love but dictators hate. The Great Dictator, Fight Club, The Departed, Wonder Woman. Okay, Apocalypse Now, Ben-Hur, Fellowship of the Ring, The Simpsons movie, 300.
This list is increasingly making no sense. It's just a list of movies. We're just listing
This
off
list was written
movies.
by AI.
I also like to I also like to think about like all of the world's like most powerful like dictators and potentates getting together over beer, going, "Oh, that fucking Simpsons movie, man, that pissed me off."
All right, well, I mean, okay, wait. Let me just continue a little. But Modern Times,
Why?
which I think we're watching soon, right? The
Maybe.
Green Mile, Schindler's List. Well, that makes sense. Rambo, The Deer Hunter, Gladiator, Fahrenheit 9/11, Argo, Dr. Zhivago, Lawrence
Like
of
you're
Arabia,
slowly changing genres of movies as
Matrix.
you go through the list.
We Were Soldiers, The Death of Stalin, a movie I love. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. That's pretty fun. Saving Private Ryan. South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. I guess that's the Saddam Hussein thing.
This is an AI list. I agree with Luke. It's just listing
All right.
movies.
Well,
I can
one
start
more
listing
baffling
movies.
Titanic.
Marathon Man, Kramer versus
Titanic
Kramer.
was
Why'd I get two
banned by the
Hoffmans?
Taliban from 1996 through 2001.
But now it's okay. Now that they're back.
What?
Wow.
American Beauty was also banned by the Taliban from 1996 through 2001.
That's banned by society now, isn't it?
I mean,
This
that
just
one
says-
has it has weed and nudity.
This just says banned as part of a prohibition on Western technology and art, including all films. That's just all the films ever.
Okay.
Why this? Why is it those?
Blanket ban keeps things simple.
Oh, here we go. Back to the Future, banned for depicting time travel and superficial depiction of significant historical events.
Significant. Which significant horn? The clock tower getting struck by lightning?
And making out with his mom. That didn't happen.
So, Paths of Glory. Any final thoughts anyone wants to throw out on this one?
Yeah,
love it. I give
patriotism
it-
is the last vestige of scoundrels.
Word. I love it. I'm not dying to see it again, but I'll probably watch it again before too long. And it is the first of the early Kubrick movies that I've ever watched, so it makes me want to watch more of them.
I think it's the third time I've watched it. So
Yeah, it's the earliest Kubrick I've seen, I think.
I owned it on VHS. Yeah, I mean, it was hard to find. I think.
Is it because they
The,
banned it at the Blockbuster?
No, I think it was just
Suspended.
distributor stuff.
Blockbuster's
killing-
dictatorship.
The killing is incredible. But I was looking on IMDb and there's about 5 or 6 of them that I've never even heard of that would be wonderful to check out.
Killer's Kiss is not as good as The Killing, and the first two
Right.
are like weird experimental kind of documentary films that are only, I forgot the names, but they're kind of only worth watching for historical research.
Is the killer who kisses the same killer who kills in The Killing?
No, I mean the actor might
Okay.
be the same, but they're different movies.
Different killer.
Yeah.
Oh, because kissing is pretty fun.
Especially when it's
Yeah, I'm
with a
into it.
killer. Kissing
Oh well,
Killers.
one of them's about a boxer, one of them's about a racetrack robbery. Those
Yeah,
sound pretty fun.
they're very different. But yeah, the robbery one's much better than the boxing one, in
All
my
right.
opinion. Someone could disagree.
I mean, IMDb agrees with you because it's like 7 something to 6 something.
Oh, okay.
7.9 to 6.6.
Okay, we're talking numbers. This is boring. Bye.
Later.
The
Will, you got anywhere you want to send people on the internets?
No, not at the moment.
Okay. As for us, you can support us on Patreon at Podcastius. We do this. You can hear it a bit more uncut on our Patreon. Mark and I talk about the series Space 1999 on Podcast 1999. I talk about the Twilight Zone, sometimes with some of these guys on Time Enough Podcast. There's Luke Loves Pokemon. There's Hyrule Field Report. There's the Game Show. All right. Once more into the breach, then.
fire in the hole. I said that like, I don't know, fire in the hole, maybe.
All right, that made a farting sound. There's my plan for there's my plan for YouTube videos, by the way, that you can make money off of. You just take NHK sumo clips and just fart soundboard them whenever they like squat down
Sure,
or
do it.
whatever. Yeah.
Do
Oh,
it.
I've seriously considered, but I am too lazy to actually do that.
That is $1 million idea.
It is $1 million idea. I should do it, but
I mean, I've told you about my dumb idea, right? About Gallagher.
maybe, but you can say it again if you want.
Well, you know how there's like 2 Gallaghers, right?
Right?
was
Isn't the
just
real
gonna
one
wear-
dead now, or is the fake one dead now? Or are they both
I
dead?
don't know.
The
I think
real
they're
one's
both dead.
dead.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But you can still see
It'd be
the fake
funny
one.
if it'd be funny if one of them died and it turned out that there never were 2 of them. It was just one the whole time.
The
They were
prestige
just
ending.
like lied about being 2.
The
Yeah,
anti-prestige. The anti-prestige ending, excuse me.
Yeah, my idea was to put on a terrifying outfit and put on like a potato sack over my head and put like a wig on it, and then film it like one of those fucking snuff films, like a security camera video in a basement, and just sneak up behind watermelons and like kill them and like cut them open with like scary music. Just say like just have the logo be like Gallagher X. This is just Gallagher.
Gallagher in
murdering
hell. This is what Gallagher does now that he's dead. This is Gallagher
As
in
long-
hell.
As long as you still have rainbow suspenders, I think that it'll work.
Yes,
That's the only part in color.
Yeah.
Everything else
Exactly.
is grainy black and white except for the rainbow suspenders.
For sure, dude. I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, as long as it doesn't get to the point where everyone who would get that reference would die also.
Although I do have to say, back in the 80s, as far as like straight to VHS garbage, I was more on Team Dorf. Never
I was
warmed up to Gallagher
man.
that much. I thought Gallagher was stupid when I was 7 years old, so
We've been talking a lot about Carol Burnett lately, and I was like talking about how much Carol Burnett influenced my sense of humor. And I find out recently that Saturday Night Live was the entirety of Saturday Night Live was based on not doing Carol Burnett. Like if you were pitching a sketch at Saturday Night Live in the 70s or 80s, they'd be like, I don't know, that's a little Carol Burnett.
that's
like
like Burnett
became an
shit.
insult. Yeah, but I'm like, God, Saturday Night Live got so much more annoying and unfunny than Carol Burnett was.
Yeah.
Like I get that it was a little old fashioned, but like, God damn.
Tim Conway could be one of the most hilarious people of all time. I mean, Tim Conway was like just really, really funny.
For sure. I mean,
Dorf is not the best place to watch him, just to make that clear.
Right,
But
yeah, of course.
I would agree with that, but otherwise, Tim Conway, I mean, just seems a really, really funny person.
does have Vincent Schiavelli in him too, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he did a ton of stuff that I haven't seen, I'm sure.
Conway.
I mean, Harvey Korman was in a Mel Brooks movie that was the Vertigo parody, which was
High anxiety.
not
High Anxiety.
fantastic, but it was okay. It's pretty good.
He was in Blazing Saddles too.
Yes.
He was in a bunch of them. Harvey Korman was also amazing.
He's in a educational film about, is it something about meat, and it's with the guy from Blood Feast. It's him and Harvey Korman.
Is Harvey Korman
Awesome.
is Harvey Korman in that? That's awesome.
Yes, I think it was a bonus feature on the Something
Yeah,
Weird Blood Feast
I
disc.
remember that really well. I didn't realize Harvey Korman was in it. But you know what else he's in? He's in the I believe he's in the Star Wars Christmas special because
Yeah,
the
I
Star
think you're right. I think you're
Star
correct.
Wars it has him and it has the guy from the Honeymooners, whose name
Not
I'm
not
losing.
not the oh god, I just had him on the mind.
Ha-
Art Carney.
Art Carney, yeah, Art Carney, and but like basically like part of that was like just like people would show up and do some sort of shtick for the camera. Also Phyllis Diller, I think, and he just sort of shows up and does some sort of wacky shtick for the camera that has nothing to do with anything else.
He was on Mama's Family. Oh, he's in History of the World
Oh,
Part
yeah.
1. Herbie Goes
Yep.
Bananas. The
Yep.
later post Sellers is dead Pink Panthers. The ones where they used where Sellers is still in it, but he's already dead.
Huh.
Wait,
But
what?
they just used outtake footage.
Really?
Yeah, they
Like, I've
suck.
only seen like the first one, really, or first
Oh,
one.
the
or
first
two.
one's not the Shot in the Dark and Strikes Again are the real good ones.
Oh, he was the president of something in Jingle All the Way. I don't remember that.
It
He
does
was
not
in
list the Star Wars Christmas special in his top list here, though.
Flintstones and
He's in
Viva
Dumb
Rock
and Dumber?
Vegas, which we talked about here.
Oh, voice role in Dumb and Dumber. What does that mean?
I don't remember him.
Animated series.
I don't remember him being in anything that later. I don't remember him past like the 80s.
Oh yeah, he was Star Wars Holiday Special, Chief Gourmanda Krellman toy video
Yeah.
instructor.
I assume you have watched the holiday special.
No.
No? Okay, I've seen that like
Oh.
6
I keep
times.
saying this. I think I've kept saying that I don't remember it, but I'm pretty sure I've not seen it.
But if you want, like I said, you can fast forward to the 20 minutes of Wookiees just making noises at each other.
No, that sounds like the best part.
It's still significantly better than Star
Rise of
Wars Part
Skywalkers?
2. Star Wars Part 2, the Clone Wars.
Oh, okay. I was going to throw
Yeah,
Rise of
I agree.
Skywalker as my snarky one, but yeah.
It's funny, there was
Starring Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Anthony Daniels, Peter Mayhew, James Earl Jones, Beatrice Arthur, Art Carney, the Jefferson Starship.
I thought the funny thing is I thought you were going to say
Jefferson Starship.
Yeah, that clip is awesome. Have you seen the holiday special? I'm like all in on the holiday special.
I'd forgotten about Jefferson Starship. That's hilarious.
I'm gonna start calling that my second favorite Star Wars thing.
I like that they B. Arthur was Beatrice Arthur. I
Yeah.
didn't realize that was
Yeah.
Beatrice.
I guess
Oh,
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I should have said B.
Beatrice or
Yeah, I
Beatrix.
guess I should have said B. That makes more sense. But I was reading directly from the page, so I didn't process.
Yeah.
Oh, I should hit the record.